This is economics. This is monetary policy. This is central bank monetary policy. It's too complex for you, but we're just solving an equation. Everyone would come to the same solution that we are. So we're just doing what needs to be done, and it is the way that it needs to be done. When in reality, there are different ways of doing things. There are different ways to handle our monetary policy, but central banks would have you believe that they're just doing what the economy is telling them to do based on their numbers, based on their calculations. They're not mathematicians. These are a class of politicians, a class of politicians that aren't elected by me or you. Who chooses them? Well, that's another topic for another day. But the idea that we have to trust these centralized institutions is what I'm really getting at here, and how disconnected that feels based on what we've seen over the previous years. We look at our national security institutions, other things that have been questioned as of late. An environment has been created over the past couple of years where nobody knows what's true. Nobody will ever know what's true because of national security laws. We saw this Chinese interference scandal happen a year and a half ago and continue throughout the commissions that we saw. So much noise that you can't tell what is true. And when there are any facts that would lead you to believe something is true, the Canadian public cannot know it because it would hurt our national security interests. Would it actually hurt our national security interests? Or is this just a convenient way of hiding some inconvenient things? Same goes for whatever national security allegations there are in the Conservative Party, right? We certainly know that there has been interference in the Conservative Party. To what extent? We don't know. It's a national security issue. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. I am Oz the all-powerful, right? This is the message that we're getting. And I have a hard time knowing what's true as a result. And it seems like there's been this intentional creation of this environment where we're not able to really understand what's happening in the world. But at the same time, they're saying you've got to trust these institutions. Now, do you really believe that trust in institutions, that leads to a better Canada? Sure, maybe a more cohesive Canada, maybe a more easy to govern Canada, maybe a more profitable Canada for some people. Sure, I'll give you that. But is this trust in institutions really serving the average Canadian? The person who is most suffering right now, people living paycheck to paycheck. I'm less and less convinced, and I think that the questioning of these institutions is more and more warranted. Now, I want to keep going here because there's more drama that has actually gone on as it relates to this Trudeau resignation, because this all started about 3 weeks ago. You might have been on the live stream when Chrystia Freeland resigned. She quit ahead of Prime Minister Trudeau firing her as the minister responsible for the economy, the finance minister. Here's a rundown, and then I'll show you this clip. I think you're going to find it interesting. Here's the rundown of what happened 3 weeks ago. Chrystia Freeland, deputy prime minister, and the chief economic position as finance minister, she's about to give the fall economic statement, one of the 2 times a year that the government tells us this is where we're headed financially. She's about to give this speech in this large document, but apparently the night before she was about to give this speech, Trudeau had a FaceTime with her, or a Zoom meeting, not in person. I remember hearing, and says, "You know what, Chrystia, you're going to give this presentation, but I'm also firing you. That's right. You'll give this presentation. You'll take some of the heat for it, but I'm firing you and I'm bringing in somebody else, somebody who is already my economic advisor as it stands right now. We're going to bring him in and make him finance minister, or at least take on this file. And that is Mark Carney. You might be familiar with that name. He was a former central banker in Canada, former governor of the Central Bank in Canada, governor of the Bank of Canada, the same role that Tiff Macklem has. He was a central banker there, and then he wasn't for a while, and then he got hired to be the central banker for the Bank of England, I believe. I don't believe it was the European Central Bank that he was the head of, but maybe the Bank of England. Correct me if I'm wrong there. A central banker through and through, and somebody trusted by the global financial community. That's a good thing in some people's eyes and not a great thing in other people's eyes. But Freeland said, I'm not going to be embarrassed like that. I'm going to step down. I'm not going to read your speech. I'm not going to read this budget. I'm going to step down and say, I no longer have confidence in you. This is what she did as a surprise to Trudeau. Now, it led to the budget being delayed, coming out hours later. It also led to the presumptive next finance minister saying, I don't want this heat. I don't want this noise. And Mark Carney saying no. Here's a question that was just asked of Trudeau today about Freeland and this relationship that they have and how that has changed. We're going to get into some speculation because I think that something else could have happened here. Something else could have happened. A little bit speculative, a little bit tinfoil hatty, but I find it interesting. Why don't you have a listen to this? Not this. Come on. Low-tech studio. Figure it out, Russ. Figure it out. Now I can't even see. Here's the clip. Let's go.
Prime Minister, up until 3 weeks ago, you were intending to stay, and it seems that the event 3 weeks ago of Ms. Freeland coming out and saying you were firing her as your finance minister was the catalyst that brought us here today. So can you explain your side of what happened there?
Chrystia has been by my side for close to 10 years now. She has been an incredible political partner through just about everything we have done as a government and as a party over the past decade. I had really hoped that she would agree to continue as my Deputy Prime Minister and take on one of the most important files that not just this government but this country is facing, but she chose otherwise. In regards to what actually happened, I am not someone who's in the habit of sharing private conversations.
Okay, so there's Trudeau's explanation of what happened. I think from his perspective, he was thinking, okay, we're going to go through each person's perspective, Trudeau's perspective, Freeland's perspective, Carney's perspective, and then one that gets a little bit tinfoil hatty, but one that I think is more likely than not. And I'm not hearing anybody say it. I think Trudeau thinks the economy is our worst thing that we have right now in terms of how the Liberals are looking. I need to distance myself from economic policy. I need to get rid of this finance minister, do a cabinet shuffle, bring in someone respectable, someone like Mark Carney, someone that many Liberals are saying will be the savior of the party, may even be the next leader of the party, depending on how things go. We'll talk about that in a moment. I got some concerns, let me tell you. He thinks, let's bring in Mark Carney, fresh face, new policies, will improve in the polls. I'll stay on as leader. We'll win the next election. I don't know if he was actually thinking that. That seems a little far-fetched given where the polling was. Maybe we'll do better. We won't lose our official party status. Maybe that's the new goal. Maybe that's the new bar that's being set. And things will be good. Freeland will step down. She'll still have an important file. She'll be the one that negotiates with Trump about the next USMCA deal. Well, that's what I assume he's referring to. One of the most important things we're facing as Canadians, this threat of tariffs. But she says no. She says no, and she kind of tears down Trudeau. She's the reason that Trudeau has resigned today. This is what has happened. That's her from her perspective. She's not going to take the fall for him. Maybe is trying to distance herself as well to try to maybe take his role. Well, could she win a leadership race? I tend to think no. I think that she's too tied to Trudeau and his policies, but you never know. Crazier things have happened in this world. Now, from Mark Carney's perspective, I think that there's two ways of looking at this. The first one is the official story. Carney said to Trudeau, yes, I'll take this position. Trudeau tries to execute the move to have Freeland vacate that position so that he could take it. Freeland says no, screws the whole plan up. Mark Carney gets spooked. Trudeau has to put in Dominic LeBlanc in this role. That's the traditional story right now. Carney had already said yes, but Freeland, because she made so much noise, was like sort of sinking the Liberal ship. And Carney's like, I don't want to be a part of that right now. Peace out. You're screwed. Get your old babysitter instead, which is what he did in Dominic LeBlanc. Now, there is a third perspective here. There's a third idea that could have some merit when you think about people's interests. Was there any kind of communication or connection between Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney? Did they agree that maybe Trudeau wouldn't be best suited to lead the Liberal Party into the next election? Did each of them think, well, maybe I would be a better Liberal leader and possible next Prime Minister? Mark Carney and Freeland both. It's both in their interest, if they have political leadership aspirations, to have Trudeau not run in this next election and possibly win their own leadership race to take his role. This has been framed as Freeland being a rogue agent and Carney just getting spooked. Could they have been working in concert here? Could Trudeau have said, I'm going to fire Freeland, Carney. You're going to come in. It's perfect. And then Carney, being the political operator that he seems to be, says, okay, I'll take that job. Passes some information along to Freeland, allows her to think about it, and says, hey, if you bring down this ship, we can screw this guy. And we can both benefit from that. Now, will we ever see any kind of evidence or proof of this communication? No. Maybe we will. Who knows? You never know what'll come out. But just when you think about the interests that different people have and what they would do, or what you would do if you were in their shoes, even if it is quite callous, it makes you wonder, were they working together to bring down this leader? And if they were, why didn't they do it sooner? Maybe it's as soon as Freeland has it become clear that she's not going to be able to serve her own interests going forward with this government, and then it becomes possible for Carney to say, let's just take this guy down. Other tinfoil hat stuff says, I don't even know why Trudeau went on for so long with the polling so bad, so much so that it makes me think, is he really the one in control of his own decisions about his life and his roles? Or are there other people that have other interests and other ways of convincing the Prime Minister to act in a certain way? Could that be a national foreign interest? Could that just be corporate interests? I don't know. These are the things I'm asking. So a messy breakup when it comes to Freeland and Trudeau. Will they ever make up? I don't know. I don't think so. I think they'll be what is that word? I can't even think of it. I think that they'll be respectable to each other, and they will say, "I wish them all the best."